Hey everybody, this is Pastor Rick. Glad you're with us today. Hello, hello, hello. I'm sitting here with you and me and hundreds of other people today talking about prosperity. Glad you're with me. This is our prosperity conversation we have once a month on the second Wednesday night. So welcome all of you that are watching from wherever you're watching from. And there were hundreds of you last time. So I'm glad you're with us today. We got a special guest. We're going to talk about investments a little bit with a guy who I have known for a very long time. He'll come join us in a little bit. His name is Darryl Wright, and we'll tell you more about him and tell you what he has to say about financial counseling, which is what he does a lot of. And we're going to talk about money and how you need it for your, I guess, goals and ambitions, the things you want to do in life. It's a very difficult topic for people in church, and church people tend to have a real problem with this whole conversation because for some reason they think it's sinful. It's that God only cares about you praying and not having a real financial strategy, which is not true at all. And the book we've been reading, Brian, my great friend back there. Hey, Brian, you can't see Brian; he's behind the scenes. But Brian is going to show you the book that we've been reading, and I hope that you've been reading with us. And it's a wonderful book, Thou Shalt Prosper. It's a great book by a guy named Lapin. And this book has been in our it's been in our world for quite a bit. We've used it, covered the 10 Commandments. I guess you can see it. Can they see it, Brian? Is that a thumbs up? They can see it? That's good. Okay, you can see it. Great. All right, and it's a really great book. I like it a lot. Lapin spends a lot of time talking about money and finance and talking about what he calls the 10 Commandments. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go over them with you real quick. And these are 10 things he says. We're going to cover the last 2 today, and then we're going to bring our guest in and talk about investments and savings and retirement and all that good stuff that he deals with every day. But the first thing that he talked about was believers should believe in the morality of business. The business is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's something that you should not run from. Secondly, we talked about, and these are the 10 Commandments, by the way, that he goes through. We should expand your network. You can't expand your network. You can't be successful if you don't know anybody. Living in a little island by yourself is not going to help you be successful. Thirdly, we talked about know yourself. Boy, this is one for me that really speaks to me because I don't think I knew myself. I don't think I really understood how Ricky Temple viewed money and how he was afraid. I tell the story that when I got to $45,000, I went, oh my God, I'm rich. Really, 20,000. I remember $20,000 a year. Man, I just thought Jesus had come down and blessed me beyond anything I could imagine. And then I got to 45,000 and I got nervous. Like, okay, this is too much money now. And so learning me helped me understand how I could have an impact on those I lead. Because if I'm afraid of money, then those that I lead will have to deal with me apologizing and half doing it and not being really ambitious. And so getting to know yourself is one of the things he talks about in the book. Commandment number 4, he says, do not pursue perfection. Don't spend your life trying to be perfect because you can't be. There's no such thing as perfect. You're not going to be perfect. So stop trying to be perfect. Just understand you're going to be flawed and you're going to make mistakes and you're not going to always get everything right. And that's part of the journey. Lead consistently. I love that. Do what you say you're going to do consistently every day. Be a consistent person. A lot of us don't have money because we're not consistent. So believe in morality of business. It's okay to make money. It's okay to have a business. Number 2, expand your network. Number 3, know yourself. And then number 4, do not pursue perfection. Don't make perfection the ultimate goal. Because if you wait for perfection, you'll never get there. Then number 5, lead consistently. Make sure you're consistent. I've learned the power of saving every week. Darryl's going to sure talk about that, I'm sure. The power of not just saving every now and then. I have a weekly saving strategy that I follow every single week. That means I don't get paid that often. Well, pray to get paid more. But I try hard. I have a saving strategy that's weekly and monthly. And I really believe it gives me dignity space. In case I need $5, I can get it. Then number 6, change the changeable. There are some things in your life that can change. There's some things in your life that you should change. So whatever is changeable, change it. If it's a bad habit, if it's a charging habit, I have certain rules that I changed because I found that I got to know myself. So there's certain things I can't spend. There's a bottom line number that when I get to that number, I can't transfer money without it meeting certain requirements. If I want to move money from one account to another, there's certain guidelines I have to follow, and I make myself do that. I make myself invest. I have a specific amount and a specific goal, and I even have that when it comes to giving. I have a specific amount I give in church. There's a specific amount. I try to make sure that I went through my life and said what needs to be changed, and I found inconsistencies, and I changed those things to help me be more consistent. Number 7, foretell the future. Change the changeable. That's number 6. And number 7, foretell the future. What do you see coming? I love to ask this question. If you saved what you saved last month for the rest of your life, how much money will you have in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years? If you save what you saved last month, not what you're going to save, what you saved last month, foretell the future. You can look at that and you can foretell the future. 0 for some people, $10 for others, and for some it's an impressive number. The goal is to try to foretell the future. If you stay on this same trajectory, where will you be? Number 8, know your money. And that's where we're going to end up today. Know your money. And that's why we have our guest today, because knowing your money is really important, and understanding how money works and being knowledgeable about your money and being informed makes a big difference. And again, I think church is a horrible place to learn about money because they only ask you to give money. I'm sorry for saying it that way, but I'm a pastor. I love God. I love people. But I'm telling you, we don't teach you to know your money. We teach you to give us money, give money. I'm not against that, but I think that you need to learn how to save money, know how your money works. And Proverbs chapter 27, he mentions in the book, verse 23, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Know the condition of your flocks. Understanding, when I became a pastor, I didn't really understand a lot of things. I went through a very, I think, impressive theological process, undergrad in theology, master's in strategic leadership, a doctorate in divinity, and a master's focusing on burnout, and along with other side classes I've taken. So I have all the way up to a doctorate degree, and there was never any emphasis on knowing how to read a balance sheet, a profit loss, a cash flow. There was never any emphasis on understanding business. I learned those things. And a lot of that I learned from people I hired, people who helped me, who coached me into being more informed, because I really didn't understand those things. What are GAAP rules, general accounting practices? So I couldn't know the state of my flocks because I didn't know how to know it. I didn't understand. I didn't have the people around me. That's what's really saved me. It's having people around me who I could name, who've been incredible, who helped me understand money and understand how to manage and how to study and how to look at my resources and know I'm in trouble and know how to get out of trouble. So good verse. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2 says this: now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. Those who've been given a trust, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2, is required that those who've been given a trust be faithful. So you want to be faithful, you want to be trustworthy, you want to be the kind of person that can be relied upon. That's number 8, by the way, if you're tracking with us. And then number 9, act rich. Give away 10%. I love this whole thing about tithing. Prosperity flows from generosity. And there's something powerful about honoring God. Now, some of you are not tithers. Most of you are not, by the way. That's what the statistics say. Only in some settings, only 5% of Christians tithe. Very few tithe. Even evangelicals who jump around talk about Jesus, they give, but they don't tithe. The word tithe means tenth. So I'm convinced that God established the tithing principle to provide for the church, to provide. So you want beg and plead and all that. But I understand that there's a problem with tithing. Let me tell you what the problem is. The average American may save 5% of his income. May save. And when Darryl gets on, we'll talk about that. They don't save much. So to get them to tithe is a challenge. Now, I believe the Bible says that when Malachi 3:10, when you tithe, you unlock blessings for yourself. I really believe in that. But just to make the point, be generous. That's the point. And he says in his book, give 10%, give away 10%, live on 90%. And I would say we'll come to that again in our conversation here in just a minute. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7 says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give. It's your choice, because God wants you to be a cheerful giver. That's 2 Corinthians 9:7. And then Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9 says, honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits of your increase. You should honor God with the first of what you get, not the second, third, and fourth. So he's the first check I write. He's the first one I give to. It's the first one I think about when I get paid. I want to honor God. And I have that as a routine for me. And then he says something that I'm going to bring my friend in here. And as a matter of fact, I want to introduce you, Darryl Wright. I'm going to let you come on in now because I want them to see you before I give this 10th commandment. I want you in on this one now. This is number 10. This is the big one. This is the one that might be a tremendous place to start the conversation. Before I say what it is, tell us, you work for, who do you work for? You're retired military, right?
Yes, sir. Retired military. Been retired since '95, and
Wow.
then that's when I got into the financial services industry. Got on board with Primerica back in '95. So I've been 30 plus years working with people as far as helping them understand money and setting up plans and just everything related around money. I worked on helicopters in the military and never really thought about doing anything else. But once I retired, I wanted to work for myself. Didn't really want to work a job. I did work a short stint over there at Overcoming by Faith, which was a blessing to me. But even then, I was still part-time working the business. And I just like sharing principles with people because I know there are a lot of things that we don't understand about money and the mindset that's important to have when you're dealing with money. It's more of a, because I'm reading the book right now, Pastor Rick, and you'd be proud of me. It's called The Psychology of Money, and it is
That's a good book. We use that in our book of the month. We use that book. It's a good book.
Yeah, it is. It is phenomenal. The nuggets the guys use. It's more about behaviors than it is, when you got a PhD in this and all that, because the way you think about money is going to determine how you manage, use, or abuse money.
Right.
So your perspective is your reality when it comes to money. And when I sit down and talk with people, I first have to learn where they are in their relationship to money before we talk about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, life insurance, mortgages, any of that stuff. I need to know how you think, because if I don't know how you think, I might lead you in the wrong direction, or I might not be able to connect with you as far as what you need to know. Not what I have a wealth of knowledge, but I've got to know you so that I can make sure that I'm speaking to you and giving you what you need, because everybody's something different.
Let me jump in and say this. I want to say, first of all, Primerica was an incredible organization years ago, and still is. I'm not saying you were in that now, but I remember earlier days, it was what made you guys famous was take them by term insurance and don't buy whole life. Which we should talk about down the road another time. But
that's fine.
As you get older, term becomes more expensive, and that's a whole conversation. Term, you pay for the term, and you don't get the whole life benefits of building value. And all
so the proper thing is buy term and invest the difference.
Invest the difference, right?
That's how you overcome that whole life conundrum by. And we can have a short conversation on that. But I believe in it, and it all requires a plan. Just having
the key is
life policy is not going to be, it's not going to save you, but you got to have a plan.
The key is to make sure that you understand the power of making sure you invest the difference. If you don't invest it, then you really lost out. So let me press on here, and let me just I want to mention this 10th thing, because I promised everybody I would, and I just think it's important. I got your information down in the box there. People want to see your information and the company you work for. But I wanted to, if I can, in the chat, it's in the chat, by the way, all of you that are watching, if you want to see where he works and what company's with and all that, it's in the chat, so you can pull it up. But the 10th commandment in this book, Darryl, that we read, right, says, never retire. I thought, oh, what a great place to bring you in, right? The guy who's helping with retirement. That's why I thought it'd be great. And, he quotes some verses. I'm going to read them to you real quick, right? Isaiah 46:4. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I will sustain and I will rescue you. 2 Timothy 3:14. But as for you, continuing what you've learned and have been convinced of. In other words, he uses these verses to imply that what you do is you keep working. He really believes in going. Now, I am, as you know, 67, and I am not retired, and I don't plan on retiring for a while. I still can run. I still feel good. What is your thoughts about that? Let me hear your thoughts about that.
About retirement.
Yeah, retirement. And let me say this: all of you that are watching, you can type your questions in the chat, and I'm gonna ask my good friend, Mr. Brian, to wave at me when we got some questions that we can ask. That we can see. And so I'll let Brian kind of handle that for me. Type your questions in the chat, or either you can email them to pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. Let's do that, Brian. Let's make sure they can do that. pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. That's pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. Either place, and we'll try to get to your questions. All right. So what do you think about that whole idea of don't retire, never retire? What do you think?
I think that's for me personally, I've had to, like that one chapter says, know yourself. Uh-huh. So when I talk to people about retirement, my first thing is, what does that mean to you? Because that means different things to different people. And once I understand what that means to you, then we can work towards that end. Because some people say, I said, well, what does that mean to you? Well, I can sit home and I don't have to do anything, and I got money coming in. So then my next question is, well, how much money do you need to have to make that happen? And see, they're in love with the idea of retirement, of what it could mean, but the reality of what it takes to get there is where a lot of people miss the boat. And that's where I try to bring in the reality. Okay, well, you want to do this. How much is that going to cost you? How much do you need? We have something called your financial independence number, meaning once I've reached a certain number, then I can live off of that monthly for the rest of my life.
So let me ask this question, Darryl. What is the average you're seeing people retire with? What is the average Social Security? I think I saw was $1,500 or $2,000.
About $1,500 average. I mean, I think it goes up to maybe, if you're depending on what you've earned, maybe up to $4,000 or something. I could probably ask you what that is, But it's just
that's me.
But the average is about 15. I think and it depends on how much you've made in the last 35 years of your life. And right. Some people only get $1,000. Some people, up to $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. So for a lot of folks, that's not enough.
But let me jump in and say this. So if it's $1,500 for the average person, then that's a good check in your mind. With the average 15. So what are they in their 401ks? I saw something that was astonishing to me. Now I don't know if my numbers are right. I hope I have them right. But the average 401k was somewhere around $40,000 for some, from African Americans, 45. And
probably
80,000, 70,000 for a person who was non-Black. Is that right?
Those numbers are pretty close. I mean, they kind of vary, but for the majority of folks that I talk to, they say, yeah, when I ask them about retirement, they say, well, I got a 401k. And that's supposed to be the end all to be all. I said, well, how much are you putting in it? I put about $100 a month. I say $100 a month, and your company's matching, let's say $50, $150, $200 a month. And for some reason, they feel that is going to be enough. But I said, hey, if you take it out 30 years, you might have, let's say, $200,000. How long is 200?
Yeah. That I've seen that number. That's a high number too for people.
That's a high number. I said, well, even at $200,000, how long will that last you? In a 401k that you're drawing, maybe, they say you should draw between 4%, maybe 5% of your money a year. And, then you got your $1,500. And if you're lucky to have a pension, I'm a military guy, retired, I've got a pension. Everybody doesn't have pensions. Pensions are going by the wayside. So most people just have a 401k and Social Security and any personal savings that they have. And they might have to work a little gig on the side. That's what I'm seeing people do who have not properly prepared, because, people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And until you understand that, the reality hits you at 64, 65. And I tell them retirement has nothing to do with age. It has to do with money. You could retire at 50 if you got enough money, but you can be 65 and 70 and not be able to retire because you cannot afford to live on $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a month. Because once you pay for Medicare, which I'm getting ready to start paying here in a few months, I'm looking at the plans now. That's $200 a month for Part B. I'm just really diving into this stuff now.
Yeah.
Wow, this costs this costs that.
Next month, we're going to have a guest and we're going to talk about that, Social Security and Medicare and all that, and the plan A, B, C, D, G, A, B, C, and G, I think it is. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward. But let me say this to you. So when you see people come to you and they're retiring, right? I assume they're really surprised that they don't have as much money as they thought they had.
Or that the money they have is not going to do what they thought it would do.
Oh, wow.
In their mind, $100,000 might be a lot of money. If somebody just walked up to you and gave you $100,000, it is a lot of money. But now I have to make this last for how long? How long do I have left to need this money?
But you know what, Darryl? For me, some of this seems like a rigged game a little bit, because I'll give you an example. If you look at the amount of money that the average net worth of a person, right? And your net worth is your income minus your expenses. So if you have $100,000 in assets, house, car, cat, dog, and you owe $50,000, your net worth is $50,000.
Right.
So when you look at the net worth of people, especially by race, and I'm just for sake of conversation, okay, just because we're talking, it's $12,500. Some studies say for African Americans, $12,500 net worth, and then and no reflection on my brothers. I'm just making a statement because on the other side of the track it's about 200,000. So if you have a net worth of $12,500, that's a huge difference in value. And I want to make sure my numbers are right, but it really is an amazing difference. The net worth. Let me check it here. The net worth. Speak to that for a minute. What do you think about that?
Well, and the net worth is important, but when it comes to retirement, I'm looking at now, how much cash flow do you have? Well, what's coming in every month to sustain your lifestyle? And that's really an important number to have. You could have a high net worth and no cash flow, or you could have a low net worth and a pretty significant cash flow, just depending upon where you are. So cash flow to me in retirement is important because we look at money that's guaranteed.
Okay.
Put that in air quotes.
So the number is, well, this report says 24,520 is the net worth of an average Black person. 250,000 is an average white person. So I understand that cash flow, which I'm glad you point out, is the big issue. But what I think the point I'm getting to is you don't have enough cash to flow into income because of the disparities. And I'm not saying that that's true for everybody. It's not true for me. It's not true for you.
Right.
And people that we know it's not true for. But I'm just saying, between men and women, it's not just Hispanics, between disparity does affect your ability rather to save for retirement, so you can have that cash flow. So if your net worth is that low, and you're basically scraping to make it every year, it's very difficult for you to have a margin of money when you get to retirement. True?
True.
Yeah.
It's
So
true. And
what do you do? What do you do if that's your reality?
got to keep working.
Keep working. Yeah.
I mean,
And,
if you can't necessarily retire. That's what I'm saying. Some people, they just can't afford to retire. And sometimes it's, stuff has happened in their life, or they just didn't know how to do something. I hear a lot of people say, man, I wish I'd met you, when I first started working, because I would have started this 401k. See, the people they were hanging around with told them, don't get in that 401k. Hey, I need my money now. I can't wait to, and see, all that is mindset. When I hear that, it's thinking. I mean, it's like, okay, you're not doing this because, I need my money now. I can't afford to do this. And I'm saying, really, you couldn't afford not to do it. And now your future self is saying, hey, we should have did this 30, 40 years ago. And the reality is now they are where they are right now.
Right. I think that a couple, 3, 4 things affect that. One is, if your debt level, you're acquiring debt and living off debt is one of the traps that keeps you trapped, right? Your health. If your health is bad, you don't take care of yourself, you don't exercise, you don't eat right, that you're creating a financial future for you that's going to be challenging, because you got to pay for all that. You got to go to the doctor, you got to do all that stuff, take medications you wouldn't have to take. And I think that spiritually, if you're not a giver, I think you don't have to. Studies have proven you don't have to have a lot of money. You have to have a lot of discipline. You have to have a lot of boundaries. So there are great studies that show people who made, didn't make a lot of money, and they made moderate incomes, but they were consistent. They saved the $100, they saved the $50, they saved it over and over again, and they avoided the trap of doing things the wrong way. They paid attention to how much sugar they were eating. 180 pounds of sugar a year. Incredible. You're eating so much sugar, and you end up with diabetes, type 2, which you could probably avoid if you didn't eat as much of the sweet stuff all the time. And so that becomes then an expensive. I mean, it's expensive to be a diabetic. Some people are diabetic by naturally. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying, whatever I can do to avoid it, if I can lose the weight, whatever I can do, that's a financial decision. And that impacts my ability. You agree?
I agree. And all those things are what this book says. Those are behaviors. And it's hard to really teach behaviors. If you can say, I'm disciplined to do this, but if your behavior is, I need to go ahead and spend my money. I'm down. I feel depressed. So I go do some retail therapy. Spending money for some people makes them feel good, because money is an emotional issue. When I'm learning, it's very emotional. It's just, and money is meant to be a tool. Money's a tool. Doesn't have any emotions. I have a hammer that I use, and I'm not emotionally attached to that hammer. I have a screwdriver. It's a tool. I'm not emotionally attached to that hammer. I use that tool for the purpose of what that tool is used for. And money is a tool that, once you develop the right behaviors, then you can go far with that.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do. Well, some of you, Brian's going to put up for you the question. If you want to ask a question, please put your question. Either you can email it, or you can simply respond to the chat. And I see people are responding. All right. Let me read one of the questions I got here. Just complete reading the book of. All right, that's not a question about money. If you got a question about money, I'll answer those other ones later. But if you got a question about money, feel free. All right, Sharon says, when it comes to life insurance, what's the better choice, term or whole life? What do you say? Hold on. What are you gonna say? I already know.
Well, I mean, so I was raised in the camp of the buy term invest the difference, and the reason that is because we have a saying that goes, you're either gonna die too soon or you're gonna live too long. And what that means is that you're going to die before you have a chance to put your assets and stuff in place for your family to carry on after you're gone if you're the breadwinner. So what you're doing with the term insurance is that you're renting wealth until you can build wealth, whether that's a 20-year, 30-year, 35-year period of time. And in between that time, you've got to manage your debt. You've got to manage your spending. I mean, this is when the behaviors come in. So what's going to work best is really having a plan and understanding. Like, I've seen a lot of people that I've ran across people in my company, all they had was term insurance. And see, that was a disservice to those people. And the rep didn't really have the proper training, or they came in just to make the money and to move on. So yeah, when you don't do the right thing by making sure they're not just buying, hey, I got a $200,000, $250,000 worth of life insurance, and it's costing them, $60 a month, where in whole life it might have cost them $150, $200 a month. But am I investing that difference? And are we doing that consistently, along with, hey, let's see what your debt looks like. Let's make sure we get you to plan, because during that period of time, we're building wealth, but we're also eliminating debt and setting you up. So when the term ends, you say, hey, I've got so much money saved, my debt levels are low or none. Now I might not need $250,000 worth of life insurance, because my price, and I'm pretty straight up with this, hey, your price could double or triple at that time for the same amount of coverage. So maybe you only need 15 or 20,000 if you need any. But let's just focus on the investment part and make sure the other areas of your finances, your debt, your savings, and all that stuff is in place. So it's a plan.
I like it. Rent with your bill. And I love that. Rent until you can build wealth. Now, let me say this to you. The age has a lot to do with it, because what you just said, the term does end. And I always say, when you go get insurance, take an old person with you, not a young person. Take somebody who live a long time, because you can outgrow it. And I've experienced that personally, where you basically outgrow the term. So, and if you haven't built the wealth, you then don't have anything to fall back on. So you don't want to just buy a term, like you said, buy the term insurance. But I do think at some point you have to transition. But I think the best way to transition is, and she said, do it between whole life. So is there ever a time when whole life, in your opinion, and you're our guest, so you give me your opinion, makes sense to you?
Well, yeah, I've ran across occasions, because insurance is something that you have to qualify for. If I ran across you and you said, hey, Darryl, I got $500,000 of whole life and I'm paying $1,000 a month, I run the quote. I say, hey, I can give you, a 30-year term, and it's only going to be $400 a month. But if you don't qualify for that insurance, I'm not going to pick you out of your position and put you in a worse situation. So the situation.
Wouldn't it be true though, Darryl, if a person's aging, right? Let's say you have term for first 20 years, and somewhere between when it's going to double or triple, because it's going to double or triple in value. So if you're paying $100 now, you're going to be paying $1,000. It's going to way up higher, and when you get to a certain age, right?
It depends how much coverage you have, but it will be higher than what you're currently paying. I'll say that
2 or 3 times. I mean, I've seen it in my life, double, triple. So wouldn't it have been better earlier on to get some form of universal life or whole life or some other policy? Would you ever? You just don't see that.
I don't see that. I mean, if you already have it, and it's if you can't follow the plan. And even having whole life, I've ran across people who had whole life that they have borrowed the cash out the money, and they've taken the cash value out because they need it for something else. And by doing that, you lessen the face amount of your actual policy. So I mean, it all goes back to having a plan and understanding what you're doing. Neither one of them is better than the other. It's just having a plan. If you got a whole life, I think you still need to be saving money. I think you still need to be getting out of debt. It's just working the plan. Because just having insurance is not going to save you. It's only going to pay if you die, and it's going to be for somebody else. And I have paid enough death claims, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, where the beneficiaries received the money, and within a year or two, they were broke. I mean, so the whole idea is to leave it to the family so that they can build generational wealth. You hear that a lot, building generational wealth, and life insurance is the way to do that if you leave the money and the people that are receiving the money are doing the right things with the money. But a lot of times these people have no education. It's like, I hit the lottery, I'm going to buy a boat, I'm going to do traveling, I'm going to do this. And before you know it, the money's gone. And the person that put this in place, you know, they're saying, wow, I could have just spent the money myself if I knew you were going to blow it. So,
Well,
I mean,
I think it is a challenge, Darryl, to figure out how to deal with the emotional advantage of having money. I call it prosperity guilt, because when you come into money and you have more than you've ever had, there is a sense of, you know, they say money burns your pocket, right? And this need to get these things, do these things. But let's go back into another side of this. Let's talk about when a person first comes in, right? And so the first thing we do is we look at their financial position, or we look at their, tell me what you do first, second, third.
We do, it's called a financial needs analysis. So I'm going to look at your income, your debt, ask you, what is it you're trying to accomplish in your life? Do you want to, you know, what age do you want to retire, and how much money do you need? If you have children, are you looking at setting aside money for their college? If you're a homeowner, you want to try to pay off this house, or you're looking to leverage it to buy another house? Or if you're not even a homeowner, hey, do you want to start that process? Do you want to start, you know, saving money for that, working on your credit? I mean, it's just a lot of different things depending upon where that person is in their life to see, you know, where we need to start going based upon what it is that they want.
What's the second thing you do?
Well, then we'll do the FNA, and it'll tell us, like, hey, you know, based upon your income and based upon what you said on the insurance part, if you died tomorrow, and this is how we look at this, because I don't know when you're going to die, because it could be too soon or it could be too late. But if you died tomorrow, okay, would you want, if you have a house, would you want your house paid for? Would you want your credit cards paid off? Do you want to fund your kids' college? If you want to do all that and then provide an income for your family for the next 5 or 10 years, you might need $800,000 worth of life insurance.
Okay, let's break that down for a minute. Okay, so let's say you have a monthly expense every month of $6,000. Now let's make it $4,000. Okay, $4,000 is what it costs to protect your family on a monthly basis. How much insurance? How do you calculate how much insurance that person needs?
The rule of thumb is 8 to 10 times your annual income.
Really?
So if you make $50,000 a year, that's $500,000, and that's not including if you own a house that you're trying to pay for, because we don't call it life insurance, we call it income protection or income replacement. So if you make $50,000 a year and you have $500,000, theoretically, that will last your family 10 years. If they just take that $500,000.
So are you just gonna take from the principal, and so every month you're going to be taking out, every year you're going to be reducing that by 50,000? Is that what you're saying? Or are you? That's
ideally how we could do it, but that person is no longer here, so you don't really need the whole 50,000, because hey, Pastor Rick is not here to go eat out at this place and do all this stuff. So hey, it's not. He was bringing in 50,000, but we don't need that much, you know. Okay. So everybody's a little different,
right? So you'll reduce it by 50,000, so they'll last for 10 years. Interesting. I always thought that part of the conversation was you want enough money so that you can get interest on the money, but you're not going to get 10% interest on 500,000. Well, you could if you invest certain ways.
If you invest a certain way, but I mean, and then that goes back to behaviors and beliefs and all that.
Let's say you're a good person, what are you going to probably get when you take a person's $500,000, right? They die, they bring a $500,000 check to you, put it, what do you tell them? What do you tell them their interest is they're going to make? What do you tell them? They're going to make 10%, 7%. What should they expect?
I mean, I'm going to find out how much do you need a month? So I
Okay.
want to find out what they need a month to do that, and then I'm going to design a
Okay.
plan to meet that need. It
Okay.
might be a combination of some investments. It might be an annuity
But
product that's going to pay them a guaranteed.
would it be 6%? They shouldn't expect to get 20% on that. They should expect a conservative number, right?
Yeah. So I don't even talk percentage. I talk dollars. How much money do you
Dollars.
need? I'm talking
Okay.
dollars. I'm talking how much money you need, because it's easier for me to figure out something in dollars than you get, because they don't understand that. They
Okay.
understand how much money do I need.
Okay.
That's what they
We,
understand. I need to
we,
talk to people in their language.
we've got a lot of questions online. Brian, I don't see them. Where are the questions that people have? All right, Augusta. I've been researching different avenues of investing. One option I've been studying is using a portion of my home equity. Is that considered wise investment? I got to be on that. That's a loan.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in my with my license, I take continuing education, and they tell us never to encourage a client to take money out of their home to put into an investment. Now, that doesn't mean a person couldn't do that, but from an
Yeah.
ethical standpoint, because I could take the money at your home equity, put it in something, and God forbid the market drops or market goes haywire, and you've lost that money, but you're still making a home equity payment. So I would, if anything, for a home equity, I would leverage it to maybe get another home. If you're leveraging to get another home, or if you're leveraging to do some home repairs, but just to invest,
Yeah.
unless you're investing in another home that's going to make you some money,
I
I
think,
wouldn't do it just to say, hey, Darryl, I took out 100,000. Can you put it in the stock
right.
market for me?
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a conversation.
I think we're gonna go to the next question here real quickly, but I want to say this. I've learned a lot about home mortgages. I mean, back in the day when you can write it off and the interest rate was 1%. Now that was amazing season. You could kind of justify some of those moves, but now with the rates being where they are and you can't write it off, I think that's probably not the best option. What's the next question on Brother Brian? Who we got on there now? Do we have another question? I think we got. I heard through the grapevine. We got playing. Janet says, "Can you please speak a little about CDs and high yield savings accounts?" What would you say, Darryl?
I'm more of a fan of the high yield savings accounts than the CDs, because usually with the high yield savings accounts, your money is not locked up. With the CD, you're going to get a 6-month, 12-month, 18, 24-month, whatever, and you have to wait until you need that. Now, if this is money that you can afford to be without during that period of time, and you feel that rate is going to be conducive to what you're trying to do, that's fine. I'm more in favor of maybe a high yield savings account, because you can normally get those with these online banks, and they're not brick and mortar, so they can give you a little bit more annual interest on that. But those are considered for a lot. When I talk to people about having emergency fund money, you want it somewhere liquid where you can get to it if you need it. And that's either, a high yield savings account, a money market account, even your savings account aren't paying that much, but you want that money to be liquid. You want it to be there when you need it. But as far as an investment, I wouldn't say CD. I mean, I've seen people, they invest in CDs because a lot of times they just don't know, or they don't know about how to do other investing, and they're fearful because of what they've heard.
Okay, we got more. What we got next, Brian? Can invest in stocks or bonds? My salary. Can I invest, I guess, in stocks and bonds when my salary is $34,000 a year?
Yes, you can. You can invest in mutual funds, and it's as little as $25 a month.
Right.
Just
So
depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, that was a good thing about Primerica. They allow the average person to get into the market through mutual funds for as little as $25 a month.
But now they got a lot of competition. Now you got to admit, there's a whole lot of people out there jumping in the river. But your Primerica.
A lot of people, but it's the value that representative brings to the table. And they've got a lot of everything is AI now. You can go to an AI and they can tell you that stuff. But I like the eyeball to eyeball, kneecap to kneecap conversation.
You're the man. Next question we got. Who we got? Can you explain a Roth 401k versus a 401k?
So the Roth 401k is an after-tax contribution into a retirement plan. The regular 401k is a pre-tax contribution into the 401k. So the way the after-tax works is that when you reach age 59 and a half or older in the Roth plan, you don't pay any taxes on that money. But with the traditional 401k plan, once you've reached 59 and a half or older, you will start paying taxes on that money because you have not paid any taxes on that money.
Especially when you draw it out, you have to pay for it. Yeah, done that, seen that.
Yeah.
Somebody else,
I mean, they're both going to grow tax deferred, but it's the big difference is when you start to pull the money out.
Right. When you pay the tax, before or after you take it out. Or when you get somebody else. That's Sharon. What's the more beneficial? 401, 403B, or a Roth IRA? All right.
I mean, 401ks are retirement plans that are normally given by, for-profit companies. Now, you can be a nonprofit and get them, but most nonprofits do 403Bs. And a Roth IRA is something that I offer to people who they may have a 401k, but I tell them that, hey, why not build up some money that one day you can pull from and there will be no taxes, and you have a 401k that once you pull from that money, there will be taxes. So you have a pile of money that's going to be taxable in retirement, and you have another pile of money that will not be taxable when it comes to retirement.
Okay.
So I think they both can work really well, but it's about a plan.
Okay. In your opinion, besides the high yield savings, what would be a good way to invest $25,000?
Depending on what you want to happen with that $25,000, what's your risk tolerance, and what's your time horizon. If you're saying, I got $25,000, I just want to invest it for the next 5, 10, 15 years, and I just want to see what it does. And hey, I'm pretty risk averse. I don't mind taking some risk because I know without no risk, there cannot be a reward. If that's the case, then yeah, we've got some good stocks that we can put you in for $25,000. But if you're risk averse, you got a short time horizon, I would say, I'd say a money market account or just a very conservative mutual fund.
Yeah. Let me say
I know I'm managing risk.
Yeah. You're what now?
I'm managing risk and behavior. When I talk to people, I've got to understand. I'm not going to just, just do this and do that, because I have a guy every 6 months. Hey, man, I got this money. How can you flip it? I said, well, I'm not a drug dealer, so I don't flip money. I mean, I invest money and I do it for the long haul, So okay. I understand when he calls me, he's looking for something that he can. And I said, hey, there's other people that do that. I fight the fight that I'm in. I stay in my lane when it comes to different things. And I understand that. Yeah. So I said, you might need to go to somebody else, because he said, I got a buddy that does this. I said, well, go see your buddy then. I have no problem. Go see your buddy. If he can flip it for you, go see your buddy.
Yeah, let me say this. I got, the first time I really got $10,000 free, and I wanted to, I invested in a IPO, initial public offering, and this stock I won't name, and I was so excited, and I don't know, I had this feeling I was going to be rich real quick, and the thing went down. I mean, time I bought it was hilarious, and I was just so nervous, and I was checking the paper every day. So your point is well taken. You don't want to take $25,000 and put it in something where you'll be nervous about it. You got to determine, like you said, whether long-term or short-term. Very good advice. Somebody else. Next question, Brian, who we got here? Let's see what we got. David wants to know, what's the difference between an ETF, oh boy, and individual stocks, and what is the value of investing in each?
So exchange traded funds they're more cost effective than stocks. Stocks and ETFs are cost effective, but ETFs are a lot more. They're exchange traded funds, and they're more cost effective than just having individual stocks or mutual funds. I would say in cost effectiveness, it'd be the ETFs, individual stocks, and then mutual funds as far as cost effectiveness. So we have a suite of investments that we use just ETFs, and they're very cost effective. They do very well, and the clients that I have in them are good. And then we have something where you can buy something that's called a separately managed account. That's going to be a block of stocks, maybe 25 to 30 to maybe 50 stocks. And when you own stocks, you own that equity. Whereas when you buy a mutual fund, you're just buying shares of some stocks. So the example I use is that, would you rather swim in a private pool or a public pool? So when you own mutual funds, you're in a public pool. Mutual funds mean a bunch of people have gathered together. They give their money to a money manager. They go out there, they buy shares in different companies, maybe 100 to 150 different companies, and you receive dividends, capital gains, and share appreciations are the three ways you make money with mutual funds. And you share that based upon how much money you have in there. Now, if somebody in the mutual fund makes a big trade and they sell a bunch of their shares, that's going to affect everybody else in the mutual fund. Whereas if you have your own stocks, I could have Amazon, Nvidia, whatever. It only affects me if I sell my shares. It doesn't affect me if somebody else sells their shares. So I have my own private pool of money as opposed to the shared pool of money. So I hope I didn't go too deep into the woods there. Did I answer your question, sir?
I think so. We got no more question. Do you think it's wise to take money out of a Roth IRA to pay off your mortgage if you have a low balance, while the stock market is high, so that you own your home outright?
Well, I mean, it's going to be different. I mean, I'd have to see what else you got going on. Some of these questions I just can't say yes or no without seeing, what else is going. What is your income looking like? How old are you? How much do you owe? With a Roth IRA, because it's after-tax money, what you've put into it, you can take out without being taxed. Yeah. If you're under 59 and a half. Now, once you're over 59 and a half and you've had it for 5 years, I mean, you can take it out, pay off your house if that's going to make you feel better. And if you're still working, maybe now take that house payment and stick it back into your Roth IRA every month.
Let me say this too. Let me say this. So one of the things that I think when I hear a question like that, I think, okay, so you also have to consider that let's say if you have a mortgage and you have a substantial amount of money that you're able to write off because of interest every month, every year, you want to factor that in, I'm assuming too, right? Because when you pay off the mortgage, you're going to have a higher interest, a lower interest deduction, which might affect your tax position. So I would think you would want to check your tax position with your tax person and look at all.
Yes.
No, you want to look at all the different angles of this move so that you're not just making those kind of moves, because you're going to pay somewhere if you're not careful. And so that's a big part. I think we got another one. Is that right? Go ahead. What's the next question? Do you think it's wise to take money out of a Roth IRA to pay off? That's okay. Do you think, was that well, Brian? That's one more. Hold on. Brian's working on it. We got one more coming up here right now. It's slowly coming. And, okay, here's your question. I have a 457 life account through my job. What exactly is that?
So if you work for a county or a municipality, their retirement plan is usually called a 457B. I don't know if that's what she's talking about. I'd have to actually see it. But when those numbers 457 align with a retirement account that are normally for counties and municipalities.
That's it. That's the answer. Can you explain what a revocable trust is and what it's used for? I almost think this is like a test there. This is getting.
How much of that bald-headed guy know there? Hey, a revocable trust. I'm not an attorney, or I really am not in a position to answer things that are tax or really legal. But I mean, revocable means you have a revocable, you have an irrevocable. So with an irrevocable, that means you can't change it. With revocable, you can change the terms of the trust. I'll just keep it general like that.
We'll get an attorney on here. I went through that because I went through some tax strategy and planning myself. And I saw we went through this irrevocable trust, but I'm not going to try to explain it either. But
Well,
you
I mean,
know,
I will say that, people that
yeah,
have trust usually have money that they're trying to avoid going through probate, and they wanted to
probate,
go straight to their
right,
heirs or whoever it is. So you avoid, if you just have a will, that my mom just passed in December, and she had a will, and I had to get it probated, and I didn't realize that was a public thing. We did it on Zoom, but the lawyer had to put it out there. So if anybody had any issue with Sylvia Wright, my mother, they could just jump on the Zoom and watch us go through that process. Now, it took about 5 to 10 minutes. They asked me some questions. It wasn't that invasive, but
right,
it's public, whereas
right.
a trust is private. Nobody knows
Well,
about that.
I'm going to save that. I got a good attorney friend I'm going to bring on here, and we'll talk about that more in detail. So stay with me. Here we go. Can you suggest a few of the best HYSs and ETFs? Also, can you have more than one brokerage? Let me say this for a minute. We're not going to recommend stuff to you in detail like that. What I want you to do, if you want specific help, then you can reach out and ask those questions. I don't want to specifically start telling people which ones to get or not get. I'm so glad y'all so smart and asking these great questions. But I'm going to have to bypass that one because we can't give you any specifics like that because we're not here.
But for the high yield savings account, I mean, what I just tell people is just Google it. You can just Google what are the best high yield savings account. It'll give you 8 to 10 choices.
Right. All right. What else we got on here? Anything else that we can answer? I think that's it. That's a great question, Janet. Go, girl. I like it. Smart stuff. But I'll let you reach out and ask more in detail privately. Let me, as we come to an end here, I want to say, I want to talk just personally a little bit about big mistakes, because when it comes down to money and investing, I gave one of my mistakes was I was a little bit too early in the game in terms of my money. I thought I was ready to give up 10,000. I wasn't. I had to get back real quick. I think we talk a lot about emergency funds. In the beginning, you said a financial needs assessment. I've had financial advisors, one in particular I'm thinking about, who basically sold me stocks, sold me stuff. He did not really dive into my financial condition. And so because I did well, I thought, oh, well, he just would sell me this, sell me that. And hey, this is a great stock, buy this. So he really was more like a stock salesman more than an advisor, even though he was called that. And I think that one of the big mistakes I made was having an advisor who was not interested in my financial needs assessment and who did not give me that, okay, let's sit down here and look at your net worth, look at your cash flow, look at your, how you're spending your money. So I'm assuming that would be something you've noticed in your practice.
I have, because as a financial advisor, I have a fiduciary responsibility that they're really emphasizing that, because like you're talking about, guys would call you and say, hey, Pastor Rick, we got this great stock, whatever, it's a hot buy, you need to get it now. Well, a lot of times those guys were doing that because they need to make a quick commission, because they make money buying and selling both ways. So whether you make money or not, they're going to make money on the transaction. What I like about what we do with our when we have high net worth clients is that we have it's called it's kind of a fee based. You pay one fee, and no matter if they buy and trade 10 times a day, it's not going to cost you anymore. And it's called a wrap fee, and it's usually 2%, depending on how much money you have. The more you have, the fee comes down. But it's based upon professional money management people, not Darryl Wright, but people that do this every day, 8 days, 5 days a week. I mean, they're watching that kind of stuff. I'm just the guy that's going to explain it to you. Make sure you understand what your level of expectation should be, and be able to hold your hand along the process. But there are other people that are smarter than Darryl Wright. They're going to be doing the investment, and they're going to be doing that stuff every day. So, but just levels of this, and I'm the middleman. I'm the guy that's going to talk to you.
I love it. I think our time is up. We are about there. We're an hour. We have one more question. Can you explain what a 529 plan is for college? This is our last question before we go.
So 529 is a plan, and different states have different 529 plans. It's a plan that you can put in. I believe the max is about 200, maybe 250,000 into the plan, and that plan is used for your child's college. Or if your child doesn't go to college, you can transfer it to another child. You can transfer it to another family member. It has a lot of flexibility in the plan. The 529, I think it's a great plan. We have some 529 plans which is really neat. You can set up a 529 plan for, let's say, your granddaughters. And when it's time for their birthday, you can send a link to people and say, hey, instead of buying her a toy or something like this, contribute to her 529 plan. Put that money that you were going to spend on, the Pokemon toy, and put it in her 529 plan. So that's a good thing about that. It allows mass participation in your child or grandchild's education, and then it has the flexibility to do so.
Now, I see Brian smiling back there. Brian, you smiling because you like that idea? You like? Yeah, one more question. Okay, what a great answer. I love it. Let me just say, I almost want to say, what if your kids go crazy? But that won't worry about that. What are the tips? What are any tips for money management during the government shutdown? Okay, hold on.
Hey, just hold on to your money. don't make any crazy investments because you don't know. I mean, I've read that they might stop paychecks and they might lay people off. So my philosophy is always keep your debt levels low and your savings high. I mean, you just have to have a basic philosophy about money, and the money that you want to, do IPOs and stuff like that. That has to be money you can afford to lose. If you can't afford to lose money, don't put it somewhere that is so speculative that you don't understand. And then when you lose it, you're going to be upset, and your behavior is going to change. So, like I said, I check your temperature. I want to see what kind of, do you understand the risk involved in this? And if you're willing to take those risks, let's move forward. If you're not, let's do something else that's going to be more conducive to your risk and your time frame.
Thank you, Darryl Wright. You've been a blessing. It's been a blessing to have you around. I think we've finished all the questions. And I thank you for tuning in. Hundreds of you tune in for these 1 hour or so gatherings. And sometimes we'll go a little longer, but I think tonight we've covered it all for you. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being with us. I want to pray for you because I know for some of you, money is a big issue. It's the one thing that gets kind of in your craw. You're always struggling, trying to figure it out. And I respect the journey. I have high expenses. I have a large organization I'm managing, and I'm striving to take us to the next place. And I understand how challenging that can be. If you're managing a nonprofit or if you're managing a business, only 4% of 9% of businesses get beyond $1 million. Only 4% get beyond $3 million. So I understand how it can be challenging, but I want you to believe you can. If you even your personal finances, if you're struggling, hang in there and hear what he said. Sit down and look at your financial needs assessment and look at your life and begin to stop, to deal with those issues and seek out some help if you can. All right, let's pray. Father, I pray for those today who've heard this time and this conversation. Bless this book we've read. We thank you for it. We ask you to bless our research and our studies as we go forward. I thank you for what you have done, and I thank you for what you've taught us. I ask you to bless us, guide us, and give us wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to make an executive decision because you're going to ask me what's our next book in the prosperity team. I'm going to go get The Money Makeover by our good friend who did Financial Peace. And we're going to go back through that book again. So it's the first book I read by the author who did Financial Peace. So I want you to, The Money Makeover, I want you to look it up. And I want you to, it's a Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And I'm going to begin on our next time together, take you through that book again, and it will take on some of these issues. And we're also going to talk next time about retirement. There's a retirement conversation we're going to have. And we're going to also read some books about financial retirement. But our read between now and next month will be the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. You can download it if you haven't. And if you have already, pull it out. We're going to talk about a few of the principles in there. He talks about this saving money. He talks about getting some kind of fund together to position you. We're talking emergency funds. And I'll share some of my stories, some of the things I've learned along the way about money, some of the mistakes I've made, and some of the things I'm clear about. So we'll talk about that along with retirement, along with Social Security. I have a special guest who specializes in Social Security, and we'll talk about that and how it all works, okay? And so thank you for being with us. May God bless you. Thank you, Brian. Back to working in the back, man. Nobody's seen you, but I see you. Thank you so much, and all the rest of you out there. God bless y'all. And remember, Church for Overcome by Faith is, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting one thing, Brian. This Saturday is our book review for our book, which is, what is our book, Brian? The one, I can't think of it. Brian, I can't, I'm sorry. My brain just left me. It's a wonderful little book, and it talks about how you gonna hold up for me, Brian? Put it up there. This is for everybody to see.
It is the Prayer of Jabez.
The Prayer of Jabez. How could I forget that, Brian? I'm sorry, it's late for me. I've been up all morning, been up early this morning. The Prayer of Jabez, and it's a great little small book. I'll be reviewing that on this Saturday at 11 o'clock in person. So you can come in person at 11 o'clock, and I won't forget, I promise. 11 o'clock, the Prayer of Jabez, and it's a brunch. And so come on out and hang with us at 11 o'clock on this Saturday. And then we're going to be back in church. So remember, our first church services are first Sunday, second Sunday, and third Sunday, 9 o'clock and 11. Those are choices. And so we'll see you then. Thank you for watching. If this blessed you, link it and send it to a friend. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. God bless. And continue to prosper. Bye-bye.